Good afternoon to our listeners on Parliament Radio 105.5 FM, our viewers on the Parliament channel, and those of you joining us via the World Wide Web on the Parliament's YouTube channel, ParlView, and also via the Parliament's website, www.ttparliament.org. 1:30 p.m. is fast approaching, and with it, the commencement of a new session of the Parliament, in this case, the second session of the 11th Republican Parliament. At this moment, members of the House of Representatives are assembled in the chamber, and meanwhile, members of the Senate are assembled in the adjoining J. Hamilton Maurice room. What will transpire today is at 1:30 p.m. the proclamation will be read in both houses simultaneously, followed by the playing of the national anthem, and this will be followed by both houses beginning their respective business. We will be following the proceedings of the House of Representatives today. The proceedings of the Senate will follow upon the conclusion of the House of Representatives. What we expect on the agenda of the House of Representatives today, there are several papers to be laid, some 10 papers which were placed on a supplemental order paper today. And following this, we expect debate to the Minister of Finance to move the second reading of the Tax Information Exchange Agreements Bill 2016. This bill, of course, is one of three bills which, under the new standing orders, were moved over to this second session of the 11th Republican Parliament. This means that the bill will continue at the second reading. We take you over now to the chamber for the commencement of the proceedings.
A proclamation by His Excellency Anthony Thomas Aquinas Carmona, ORTT, SC, President and Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces of the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago. Whereas it is provided by subsection 1 of section 67 of the Constitution of the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago, that each session of Parliament shall be held at such place within Trinidad and Tobago, and shall commence at such time as the President may by proclamation appoint. Now, therefore, I, Anthony Thomas Aquinas Carmona, President as aforesaid, do hereby appoint Tower D, International Waterfront Center, 1A Wrightson Road, Port of Spain, Trinidad, as the place at which the second session of the 11th Parliament of the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago shall be held, and 1:30 p.m. on Friday, the 23rd day of September 2016, as the time at which the said session shall commence, given under my hand, and the seal of the President of the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago at the office of the President, St. Anne's, this 16th day of September 2016.
Now shall we pray? Almighty God, we give thanks to you, the creator of the universe, and humbly beseech you to direct and prosper the deliberations of the members of this house here assembled for the advancement of your glory and the trust and welfare of the people of Trinidad and Tobago. Grant that peace and happiness, truth and justice may be established among us for all generations. Amen. Amen. Namaste.
Oath or affirmation. Announcements by the Speaker.
Honorable members, as you are aware, on Friday, June 10th, 2016, the House adopted the first report of the Joint Select Committee on Government Assurances. Standing Order 108-1 mandates that, and I quote, the Committee on Government Assurances shall scrutinize the assurances, promises, and undertakings given by ministers from time to time on the floor of the House and report on A, the extent to which such assurances, promises, and undertakings have been implemented, and B, when such assurances, promises, and undertakings have been implemented, and whether such implementation has taken place within the minimum time necessary for the purpose. Accordingly, I wish to inform this House that with effect from the next sitting, that is, the second sitting of this second session, assurances made to the House by ministers during question time, debates on bills, ministerial statements, and matters raised on the adjournment will be recorded and monitored for implementation. A procedural bulletin to this effect will be circulated during today's proceedings. Please be guided accordingly. I thank you.
Bills brought from the Senate. Petitions. Papers.
Minister of Finance.
Madam Speaker, I have the honor to lay on the table the following papers on the supplemental order paper. 1 to 2, the report of the Auditor General of the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago on the financial statements of the Trinidad and Tobago Racing Authority for the year ended July 31st, 2007 and 2008. 3, the report of the Auditor General of the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago on the financial statements of the Penal de Bay Regional Corporation for the year ended September 30th, 2006. 4 to 6, the report of the Auditor General of the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago on the financial statements of the Chagaramas Development Authority for the year ended September 30th, 2011, 2012, and 2013. 7, the consolidated financial statements of Caribbean Airlines Limited for the financial year ended December 31st, 2013. 8, the report of the Auditor General of the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago on the financial statements of the Agricultural Development Bank of Trinidad and Tobago for the year ended September 30th, 2013. 9, the audited financial statements of Rural Development Company of Trinidad and Tobago Limited for the financial year ended September 30th, 2013. 10, the annual report and audited financial statements of National Enterprise Limited for the financial year ended March 31st, 2016. Madam Speaker, I beg to move that papers 1 to 6 be referred to the Public Accounts Committee and papers 7 to 10 be referred to the Public Accounts Enterprises Committee.
Honorable members, the question is that papers 1 to 6 be referred to the Public Accounts Committee and papers 7 to 10 be referred to the Public Accounts Enterprises Committee. All in favor say aye. Aye. Any against? The ayes have it.
Reports from committees. Prime Minister's questions. Urgent questions. Questions or notice. Requests for leave to move the adjournment of the House on definite matters of urgent public importance. statements by ministers, personal explanations, introduction of bills, motions relating to the business or sittings of the House and moved by a minister, public business, government business, bills second reading.
Minister of Finance.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I beg to move that a bill entitled An Act to Repeal the Tax Information Exchange Agreements Act and replace it with a new Tax Information Exchange Agreements Act, which would make provision for the implementation of agreements between Trinidad and Tobago and other states, providing for the exchange of information for the purposes of taxation, to validate the sharing of personal information held by the Board of Inland Revenue or financial institutions, and for related purposes be now read a second time. Madam Speaker, as you will know and members of this House will know, this is the first time we are utilizing Standing Order 79.3 with respect to the resumption of proceedings of a bill that was before the House in the last session. And I'm certain as we go along, we will be able to fine-tune the procedure in the best interest of all concerned. However, I am advised, and I am very obedient, that I must reintroduce the bill. This is the procedure that has been given to me at this point in time. I have absolutely no intention of rehashing much of what was said before. I would simply put some matters on the table. Now, Madam Speaker, this act, the Act to Repeal the Tax Information Exchange Agreement and replace it with a new act, essentially modernizes our tax information agreement procedures. There was an older act, a 1989 Tax Information Exchange Act, which has been superseded over the years by a number of different agreements, culminating in the agreement signed with the United States of America in August of this year by my good self and the ambassador of the United States to Trinidad and Tobago, Mr. Estrada. So that this piece of legislation follows the signing of the 2016 Tax Information Exchange Agreement with the United States. Now, there's been a lot of talk about this agreement and this legislation, which is required to incorporate into our domestic law the agreement signed with the United States, and a lot of information in the system, a lot of which is just not accurate or it's incomplete. And I think, therefore, Madam Speaker, I think it is best to put into the record now some information which should clarify some of the issues that have been in the public domain, subject to misunderstanding, misinformation, misconstruction, and so on. And Madam Speaker, the execution of the Tax Information Exchange Agreement with the United States in August followed a process that began in 2010. And in 2010, the United States passed its Foreign Account Tax Compliance Act, requiring countries that have U.S. citizens or U.S. persons, companies, etc., doing business, holding accounts in these countries, to share information with the U.S. Treasury with respect to payment or not, as the case may be, of taxes. And I think it is necessary to put into the record a cabinet minute number 1470 of May 23, 2013, under the former administration, and the minute is entitled Implementation Strategy for Compliance with the United States Foreign Account Tax Compliance Act. This minute would have been approved and agreed to by our honorable colleagues opposite. And in that cabinet meeting, which caused this decision to be made, the then Cabinet of Trinidad and Tobago in 2013, May, agreed that Trinidad and Tobago should adopt the Model 1 option of the Intergovernmental Agreement with the United States, which enables compliance with the requirements of the U.S. Foreign Account Tax Compliance Act. And it went on to give some information on what is in the Act and the characteristics of which model are as indicated hereunder. The foreign financial institutions in Trinidad and Tobago will report the required information to the local competent authority. In the case of Trinidad and Tobago, the Board of Inland Revenue. The foreign financial institutions will not be required to withhold 30% of payments they receive or on payments made to account holders, and the FATCA regulations will not apply. The regulations are very detailed and will be onerous to the foreign financial institutions. The Minister of Finance signed the intergovernmental agreement and its endorsement at the upcoming CARICOM Heads of Government meeting to be held in Port of Spain in July 2013. The intergovernmental agreement to be signed on or before December 31st, 2013. The Attorney General cause to be prepared the necessary amendments to the existing legislation and a public awareness campaign regarding FATCA be developed and executed by the Central Bank in collaboration with the Ministry of Finance. Now let's see what happened. The Minister of Finance did not sign the intergovernmental agreement. It was not signed before December 31st, 2013. The Attorney General did eventually cause to be prepared necessary amendments in 2015 as the previous Attorney General, and there was no public awareness campaign. Now let's move on to the second cabinet minute, which this information is not properly in the public domain and it is necessary for it to be there. This is cabinet minute number 3035 of October 31st, 2013. Because after the previous government agreed to sign the agreement and to prepare legislation to incorporate the agreement into our domestic law and to engage in a public awareness campaign, they had a concern, the former government had a concern about the issue of reciprocity as to whether the government of Trinidad and Tobago should sign a reciprocal agreement or a non-reciprocal agreement to jurisdictions which have selected the Model 1 of the intergovernmental agreement. So this was an issue that came up under the previous government. They considered it, whether they should sign a reciprocal. In other words, there would be full reciprocity with every other country who has signed a similar agreement, or a non-reciprocal where it would be on a bilateral basis. In other words, on a case-by-case basis. And the cabinet of the former government, the People's Partnership Government, in October 2013, October 31st, agreed that the Minister of Finance would enter into a Model 1 intergovernmental agreement reciprocal with the United States of America. So those were two decisions, cabinet decisions made by the former administration. One, they will sign the agreement. Two, they will prepare legislation to incorporate it into our domestic law. Three, they would engage in a public awareness campaign. And four, the agreement will be on a reciprocal basis. So, we come now to present time and the act before the House. And what is in the act before the House? The act before the House faithfully complies with the Model 1 agreement, the Model 1 reciprocal agreement, the same agreement approved by the cabinet of the former government in May 2013 and in October 2013. And Madam Speaker, another bit of information that's in the public domain that needs to be dealt with. This bill is 147 pages long, but the legislation itself ends at page 31. And from page 31 to page 147, it is merely a copy of the Model 1 intergovernmental agreement. So that the legislation itself is simply 31 pages long, and it comprises 30 clauses. It is simply a bill with an appendix, and the appendix is the same Model 1 intergovernmental agreement agreed to by the former administration in May 2013 and October 2013. No difference. Now, Madam Speaker, I have seen in the newspapers a statement by the Leader of the Opposition which outlines what is purported to be the Opposition's commitment to passage of the bill and concerns. And they had concerns with Clause 5, Clause 6, Clause 7, Clause 8, Clause 21, and Clause 25. The opposition chose not to prepare amendments and send them to the government. We're still waiting on them. But the opposition instead decided to publish a full-page ad and outline its concerns with respect to the legislation. We've looked at it, Madam Speaker, although this is a very bizarre method of communication. Rather than sending a letter, an email, a text message, or some other form of electronic communication or written communication, is a very bizarre methodology to communicate with the government by way of a newspaper advertisement. But be that as it may, I thank the opposition for finally communicating with us in whatever methodology you have used. And it is unfortunate these are not amendments, but they are issues. So let's take a look. Clause 5. Clause 5 says that the President may by order declare a tax information agreement specified in the order to be a declared agreement for the purposes of this Act. The opposition is of the view this is not required and gives blanket approval for any future agreement signed by any government to become law. I have asked the technocrats to advise me on this, and I'm advised that this is exactly what was in the 1989 Tax Information Exchange Agreement law, which has subsisted in Trinidad and Tobago for, how many years was that? 27 years. And throughout 1989 to now is 27. And throughout the 5-year and 3 months tenure of the former administration, included in that 27 years, and agreed to and approved by the honorable member for Caroni Central in his previous incarnation as a MP of the NAR government. I believe it was for the constituency of Caroni East, and I believe at the time he held various portfolios, and one of them was industry and commerce or something like that. I can't remember. I just know he was a member of parliament and he was a minister in the Robinson government between 1986 and 1991, and I know he voted for the 1989 Tax Information Exchange Agreement bill without any objection or reservation on his part. So that is our response to Clause 5. This has been there for 27 years. All governments have agreed with it, including the government of the members opposite, and we are advised that this is something that is necessary. Clause 6. This is probably why the member for Caroni Central voted for it way back in 1989. He knew it was necessary then. Clause 6. The minister or any person authorized by him shall ensure that effect is given to every declared agreement. Now, what have we done with Clause 6? I think we've taken it out. Yeah? So we are proposing to delete Clause 6. Taking it out.
Member for Caroni East. Member for Caroni East. I would just like to remind you of the standing order for members who are not speaking. Continue, Minister of Finance.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I don't know why the member for Caroni East behaves like that. It is just because we have put back in this measure in other parts of the legislation. We take it out of Clause 6. You don't like it there, we take it out. And we are making sure it is now specific to the 2016 tax. You see, everything that we do must be relevant to the 2016 intergovernmental agreement, because we are no longer in 1990 or 1996 or 2015. We are in 2016. And Trinidad and Tobago has signed an agreement with the United States of America to share tax information. So whatever we do, in order to avoid the calamity that is approaching, we must be consistent with the 2016 agreement. And that's why I want to repeat that the 2016 agreement that I signed on behalf of the government of Trinidad and Tobago, authorized by Cabinet to do so, is exactly the same as the model agreement approved by the former Cabinet, headed by the member for Sipara. So everything we do must be consistent with that. So we've taken out Clause 6 because it does apply across the board, and we've made the amendments now specific to the 2016 intergovernmental agreement. Let's go to Clause 7 now. The minister, any person authorized by him, has, for the purpose of giving effect to a declared agreement, all powers, etc., etc., etc. The opposition said this is not required. Okay? It is. Clause 7. Yeah. We have sought advice, and it is required for all agreements. It is. And we are now replacing minister with the board.
Will the Honourable Minister please give way? Kindly give way. You will not give way. Everywhere Minister is in that bill, remove
Sit
it.
down, sit down, sit down. Madam Speaker, I don't know why members opposite are getting on so. As I said, Madam Speaker, could you?
I would like to hear the contribution of the Minister of Finance and member for Couva South. I think your deep baritone voice has a way of finding its way up here. And therefore, we're in a different type of chamber, and I'd ask you to respect the rules, please. Thank you, Minister of Finance.
Yes, Madam Speaker. I don't want to get into any cankertang today, but if the opposition had done its work and had examined the bill clause by clause and had prepared proposed amendments for us, then I suspect they would have understood exactly what we are doing. So I'll move now on to Clause 8. And Madam Speaker, I've heard 2 days. Madam Speaker, they've had this legislation now. How long have they had it?
Since 2013.
Since they've had the legislation, Madam Speaker. I need to make this point.
Proceed.
I need to make this point. And I think it's time for the, as I said in another place, it's time for the dishonesty to stop. And the dishonesty I refer to is the dishonesty of the UNC. Now, Madam Speaker, I have in my possession an advice received from the state's attorneys, and in this advice, Madam Speaker, this is a chronology. This is, Madam Speaker, could you get them to stop talking? This is serious business.
Jumpy fellas, jumpy.
Member for Couva South and member for Caroni East. I think this will be the last occasion that I will really be asking you all to respect the rules. Continue.
Madam Speaker, I have advice sent to me by the lawyers of the state, not private lawyers, people who work for the government of Trinidad and Tobago. And it gives me a complete chronology, starting with the minute 1470 of 23rd of May 2013, then the minute 3035 of October 31st, 2013. Then it speaks to negotiations between the Ministry of Finance and U.S. Treasury that occurred in 2013 and 2014. It speaks to the then Attorney General Anand Ramlogan agreeing in September 2014 that the Minister of Finance signed a version of the IGA that would have been submitted to his office for vetting. It goes on in September 2014. The Ministry of Finance advised the U.S. Treasury that Trinidad and Tobago is prepared to enter into the Model 1A IGA. Let me repeat that date. September the 23rd, 2014. The Ministry of Finance of the PP government advised the U.S. Treasury that Trinidad and Tobago is prepared to enter into the Model 1 IGA. And then 2015 came and nothing happened, Madam Speaker. Then we go on. November 19, 2014, Madam Speaker.
Naparima.
Madam Speaker, the problem is they don't want the public to know the truth. On November 19, 2014, the Treasury Department submitted to Trinidad and Tobago the IGA with amendments and comments. They asked for feedback. Trinidad and Tobago received a response from Trinidad and Tobago in November 2014. On December, U.S. Treasury required a response from Trinidad and Tobago to the November 19, 2014, and they received a response by November 26. On December 2nd, the U.S. Treasury advised Trinidad and Tobago both countries had reached an agreement on the terms of the agreement. And it goes on giving all of the details. So the cabinet of the Honorable Member for Siparia approved the signing of the agreement in 2013. They had discussions with the U.S. Treasury, and they reached agreement with the U.S. Treasury on December the 2nd, 2014. And between December 2nd, 2014 and September 7th, 2015, they did nothing except they did one thing. They did one thing. The Chief Parliamentary Council, in the first quarter of 2015, prepared a draft tax information agreement bill 2015. And I am saying without any fear of contradiction that the same bill prepared by the Chief Parliamentary Council in the first quarter of 2015 is the same bill before the Parliament today, Madam Speaker. So the fact of the matter is, on the instructions,
Minister of Finance.
They could shout all they want. I want the country to know that the bill that is being debated today is identical to the bill prepared by the People's Partnership Government. It's the same bill, word for word.
Member for Naparima, this is not a boxing ring that people shout across the floor.
It is the Chief Parliamentary Council, an officer of the state, on the instructions of the former Attorney General, under the stewardship of the former Prime Minister, prepared this bill, Madam Speaker. That is, you know how long ago that is? That is 18 months ago. 18 months ago, they had sight of this legislation. 18 months ago. And for reasons best known to themselves. Best known to themselves. They did not sign the agreement, even though the United States told them since the 2nd of December 2014 that agreement had been reached on the terms and conditions. They didn't sign the agreement, and they didn't proceed and table the legislation to bring into effect the intergovernmental agreement.
There was no draft bill at the LRC stage.
Members, every member who wishes to contribute to this debate will be afforded an opportunity in the manner that the standing orders provide. I would ask members to please control themselves with the crosstalk. Minister of Finance.
I don't know if that's why there was a change of Attorney General in 2015. Maybe the Honorable Prime Minister of the time discovered that the previous AG had hid this from them. I don't know what went on there. But the fact of the matter is, the records show that a bill was prepared in early 2015 under their stewardship, and that this is this bill. The only thing we changed in this was the date. And considered by them. The only thing we changed in this was the date. So anyway, Madam Speaker, let us move on. So we have made a change. We've made a change to Clause 7. Let's go to Clause 8. The opposition has a problem with Clause 8. Clause 8 that says that nothing in Section 4 of the Income Tax Act, Section 6, 41, 42, and 46 of the Data Protection Act, or any other law of like effect, prevents the disclosure of information. The opposition is of the view that it strips our citizens of any protection that the law may give to them, etc. AG?
Section 7 of the existing 1989 Act.
I want to inform you, Madam Speaker, that is Section 7 of the existing 1989 Tax Information Exchange Act, word for word, that was approved and approved by the Member of Parliament for Caroni Central when he was an NAR MP, and the member for Tabakit was a member of the NAR at the time too. I don't have anything with you. You were a member of the NAR. So, Madam Speaker, the same agreement passed by members opposite, the same law, word for word.
Except data protection added.
But they don't like it now. They vote for it when they're in government, but they don't want it now. Now let's move to 21.
We've left it the same way.
So we've left it the same way. Clause 21. The competent authority shall enter into a memorandum of understanding with the Secretary of the United States Treasury. They said the reach of the MOU can affect the manner in which the participants in the financial system operate.
They want the BIR to be stymied by people who don't.
Madam Speaker, can you believe the effect, if we agree to this, the MOU, the Parliament will be effectively telling the Board of Inland Revenue what to do? That is what they want.
Members who have issues.
The members of Parliament who have tax issues will be coming into this Parliament and deciding what the Board of Inland Revenue could do or not do with respect to taxation matters, Madam Speaker. That is interference. We will not agree to that. The Board of Inland Revenue must be allowed to do its work without let or hindrance, unfettered by politicians. Clause 25. The Minister may, by order, where the parties modify the IGA, amend the IGA or its annexes. Now that is quite a bizarre recommendation. If we agree to that, it means that the government of Trinidad and Tobago, would not be able to sign an agreement without the opposition approval.
Correct.
What kind of country would that be, Madam Speaker? What kind of country would that be? So Trinidad and Tobago, the government would not be able to sign. I signed a customs agreement, Madam Speaker,
For different reasons.
just a few days ago. Madam Speaker, this crosstalk is no, you stop.
Members, member for Superior, I'm on my legs. Members, there is a specific standing order, that is standing order 47, that deals with interruptions. If any member wishes to make an interruption, could they please comply with the standing order? I understand that there's a lot of conversation about this particular bill, and we can stay here the whole night for every member to make their valid contribution. Please continue, Minister of Finance.
Speaker, and I really hope the member for Separia will listen to you. So the fact of the matter is that this government is not going to tie the hands of itself or any other government going forward. For example, on the instructions of Cabinet, as Minister of Finance, I signed a customs agreement with the United States 2 days ago. And one wonders,
15 years.
what were these agreements doing, lingering in some drawer, forgotten, gathering dust, under the 5 years of the UNC? You have the tax information agreement, and these are things that cause us to be in breach of the FATF regulations, of the CFATF obligations, causing this country to be grey listed, causing this country to be put on a watch list. What was going on under the former administration when they chose not to sign the tax information exchange agreement and chose not to sign a customs information exchange agreement for 5 years? And, Madam Speaker, not only are these CFATF obligations, do you know what? Because that agreement with the United States of America with respect to customs information, because what it allows now is that the United States of America can share intelligence with the law enforcement agencies in Trinidad and Tobago with respect to customs offenses. So you're now dealing with drug trafficking, gun running, smuggling, Madam Speaker. So now for the first time, the Homeland Security Agency, for the first time the Homeland Security Agency in the United States, if it has information about persons in Trinidad and Tobago engaged in gun running, drug trafficking, smuggling, and other customs offenses, Madam Speaker, the United States can now share intelligence leading to convictions of persons engaged in criminal behavior in Trinidad and Tobago. What on earth was going on in that former government? You had that there. They had that there for the entire 5 year and 3 months term. 5 years and 3 months. This administration has signed that agreement with the United States of America to share customs intelligence so we can now prosecute persons who are engaged in gun running, drug trafficking, and so on. But they want, if I was to go along with this, if we on this side go along with this, I could not sign that customs agreement without coming to Parliament and getting their approval. Draw your own conclusions, Madam Speaker. That is what they want? That is not going to happen. Look at what is going on with tax information. We have to come to them and beg them to agree to this legislation. You think we have to do that with everything, with customs, with tax, double taxation treaties? That's the implication of this.
And not a line
So,
of amendment, only issues.
Madam Speaker, they're not fooling everybody, you know. They may be fooling one or two people, but they're not fooling everybody. What was the tax information agreement doing languishing on the desk of the former attorneys general for the last 5 years? What was the customs information sharing agreement doing languishing on the desk of the former Minister of Finance for the last 5 years? Why?
And now they want to give approval from
And now we must get approval from them? They didn't sign them for 5 years. That is the best statement of intent you can figure out from their behavior. And now they're telling us that we must come and get approval from them if we want to sign a customs agreement or a tax agreement with the United States. That is not going to happen. And I'm not going to fetter any future government with that either. So let's go now to the bill. As we said, we amended clause 8, removed minister, and we put in board. And we are not fettering the board. The board will be able to exercise its functions without any hindrance coming from the Parliament. But to make this legislation completely consistent with the 2016 Intergovernmental Agreement, we have gone through it with a fine-tooth comb, Madam Speaker. And one of the mistakes we are not going to make, because the member for Caroni Central feel bad. Feel he could have threatened the United States. He have a big stick. He have a big stick. We not stupid, you know. He feel he could bad talk representatives of foreign countries. We ain't doing that. We know the realities of the of this world, Madam Speaker. And we have gone through this agreement now. We have gone through this agreement, and we are now making this law 100%. Since they want minister out from Section 7, we take it out. But it's coming back in under the definition of competent authority, because the definition of competent authority will now follow word for word what is in Article 1 of the 2016 Tax Information Exchange Agreement. And I'm going to read Article 1 of the Tax Information Exchange Agreement, which was approved by the Cabinet of the Honourable Member for Siparia. And let's see what competent authority means. In this agreement, the term competent authority means, in the case of the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago, the minister to whom the responsibility for finance is assigned or his authorized representatives. So that has come back in now to the definition. Competent authority means the minister to whom responsibility for finance is assigned or his authorized representatives.
That's right. Same thing that they had in clause 4.
And that is continued throughout the intergovernmental 2016 intergovernmental agreement, Madam Speaker. Under Part 4 of the intergovernmental agreement. So we are amending the definition to make it exactly the same as in the intergovernmental agreement. Yeah, I'll come into that. And Madam Speaker, the opposition also complained about stakeholder consultation. Well, there's been copious stakeholder consultation. Copious stakeholder consultation. And based on, that's what you think, and based on feedback coming back from stakeholders, Madam Speaker, from the Bankers Association, we have a letter dated September the 13th, 2016, and from the Bankers Association of Trinidad and Tobago to the Honourable Minister of Finance, namely myself, Tax Information Exchange Bill 2016. The Bankers Association of Trinidad and Tobago is pleased to support the passage of the Tax Information Exchange Bill 2016, which will enable Trinidad and Tobago to solidify its intergovernmental agreement with the United States by September 30th, 2016. The Bankers Association members note it is intended that further regulations and guidelines are expected, and we look forward to providing feedback on these at the relevant developmental stage. The Bankers Association has shared these comments. You know, that is why I wonder, why do they say the things that they say? The Bankers Association has simultaneously shared these comments with the Leader of the Opposition and the Chief Parliamentary Counsel of the Office of the Attorney General. So it's not just me they gave the feedback to. They gave the feedback to the opposition. 10 days ago, not 1 day ago, 10 days ago, the Bankers Association say they support the bill. Now let's go to the Securities Exchange Agreement. This is an email from the Securities Exchange Agreement, SEC, from the Legal Counsel of the SEC, and the proposed list of amendments to the bill is received with thanks. We have reviewed same, and we should submit the following for further consideration. And they go on to ask us to include a number of things, such as the competent authority and some cleanups and some typos, Madam Speaker. So based on the feedback from the Securities and Exchange Commission and from the Bankers Association, and I personally have already met with the Central Bank, Madam Speaker, and we have also consulted with the Inland Revenue Department. We have some consequential amendments made to various clauses in the bill, clauses 26, clauses 27, dealing with the competent authority, which, as I said, will be defined in accordance with Article 1. And we made amendments to clause 28, which indicates that the central bank will issue guidelines for declared agreements. So, Madam Speaker, if you read the papers today, if you read the papers yesterday, you would see that all the stakeholders are calling upon the opposition and the government to deal with this. Well, Madam Speaker, the government has 23 votes. This is a special majority bill. Every single PNM member is ready to vote on this bill. And I want to make that point, because I keep seeing this outside there, that the opposition and the government must come together. We are voting, all 23 PNM members are voting for the FATCA legislation. So
So I want persons who are asking for us and them to cooperate. We are already voting for the bill. Speak to them. We need 3 opposition votes to pass this bill. We ready to go. The Bankers Association tell us, vote for the bill. We are ready to vote for the bill. And therefore, Madam Speaker, I'm going to propose, Madam Speaker, that we suspend the debate. Well, it's not for you. We suspend the debate on this bill at this time for 1 hour so we can sit down with the opposition and go through all of the required amendments to this bill. And I am hopeful that over the next 60 minutes, as I said, Madam Speaker.
Member for Siparia. Minister of
Madam
Finance.
Speaker, I just want to make it clear I'm not finished with my contribution. I still have a few more minutes. But at this time, I am requesting, and I'm sure the Leader of Government Business will move the appropriate motion, that we suspend the debate on this bill. At this time, we are not rehashing what we did on the last occasion. We have received a communication from the opposition. However weird it was received, we got it from them. We have received communication from the Bankers Association. I am proposing we sit down for 60 minutes and we sort out the amendments to this bill.
Members.
Madam Speaker, in accordance with Standing Order 53, I beg to move that debate.
Member for Siparia. Anything that is moved will be put to a vote. And members will members will have an opportunity to register their vote. Please continue.
Madam Speaker, as I was saying, in accordance with Standing Order 53, I beg to move that debate on the Tax Information Exchange Agreements Bill 2016 be adjourned to 3:20 p.m. today. And, Madam Speaker, I crave your indulgence. I beg to move.
Members, the question is, I am on my legs, please, member for Naparima. And this is the last time I'll issue that warning for the entire day. The question is that the Tax Information Exchange Agreements Bill 2016 be adjourned to 3:20 p.m. today. All in favor? Aye. Any against?
No.
Mrs. Robinson Regis.
Aye.
Dr. Rowley.
Aye.
Mr. Alwari.
Aye.
Mr. Imbert.
Yes. I want to know if your number votes.
Mr. Young.
Aye.
Mr. Dialsing.
Yes.
Mr. Hines.
Aye.
Mr. Mitchell.
Aye.
Ms. Cujo.
Aye.
Mr. Antwine.
Aye.
Mrs. Critchlow Coburn.
Aye.
Mr. Ford.
Aye.
Mr. Dillon.
Aye.
Mrs. Webster Roy.
Aye.
Dr. Gadsby Dolly.
Aye.
Miss Oliver.
Aye.
Mr. Coffey.
Aye.
Mr. Garcia.
Aye.
Mr. Smith.
Yes.
Dr. Francis. Mr. Leons.
Yes.
Mrs. Jennings Smith.
Aye.
Miss MacDonald.
Yes.
Mr. Singh.
No.
Mrs. Prasad Bisasa.
Absolutely not.
Mr. Lee. No. Mr. Ramada. Mr. Karen.
No.
Dr. Rambachan.
Must have the right to reply no.
Dr. Tiwari.
This is extraordinary.
Mrs. Nualu Hussain.
No.
Dr. Gopi Singh,
No, it's an infringement of the rules.
Mrs. Gayadeen Gopi Singh,
No.
53. Look at 53.
Dr. Munilal,
No, standing order 53, the speaker can intervene.
Member for Oropuj East, I would ask you to just withdraw that statement. The speaker has allowed the question, and it's just a question now of you registering your vote.
Madam Speaker, if you have allowed it, I withdraw.
Member, I am sure you don't mean to be contemptuous.
In contemptuous.
Member, I am sure you do not mean to be contemptuous.
I am
Are you
sure I
voting
don't mean to
yes?
be contemptuous. I voted no
Member,
already.
I would ask you to leave the chamber until we resume.
Mr. Indar Singh, Mr. Indar Singh,
No, this is an abuse of the parliament.
Dr. Khan, Mr. Charles,
No.
Mr. Padarat,
No.
Dr. Budo,
No.
Mr. Pari,
No.
Ms. Ramdia.
No.
Madam Speaker, the results.
Standing order 53.
Member for Barataria, I have not recognized you. Member, I have not recognized you. Member, can you kindly take your seat, please? Members, please. Member, thank you. Honorable members, with a division of 22 members voting for and 18 members voting against and no abstentions, the motion for the House to be suspend the debate is carried for 1 hour. So we shall resume at 2:25.
It's a dictatorship. It's a dictatorship. Nobody are going to run this opposition into the ground like this. No.
Follow the Parliament of Trinidad and Tobago on Twitter. Our call sign is @